All right, Derek Kugel.
Here.
Sean Datchler.
Here.
Troy Bollinger.
Here.
Alicia Hammock.
Here.
Brent Haberkamp.
Here.
All right. That is everyone.
Okay, and next order of business actually says introductions, and I would love to have staff introduce themselves and let us know who's present.
All right.
I can go first. My name is Rochelle Anderholm-Parsh, and I'm the Aquatic and Recreation Manager for the City of Oregon City. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, I'm Pete Walter with the Planning Department.
This is Denise Conrad, Assistant Parks and Recreation Director.
Kathy Wiseman, Pioneer Center.
Okay, and from what I can see in participants, that's staff. Oh no,
You
Matthew.
forgot John.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see John and I missed Matthew.
Yep.
John Waverly, Parks and Cemetery Maintenance.
This is Matthew Weintraub, Tourism Program Specialist.
Okay, that covers staff. All right, hearing nothing else. Next order of business is approval of the minutes of September 24th, 2020. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Brent Haberkamp, motion to approve.
Sean Datchler, second.
All right, and Kendall, can you call roll?
Doug Neely. Jeff Sargent.
Aye.
Andy Crump.
Aye.
Karen Morey.
Aye.
Derek Kugel.
Aye.
John Datchler.
Aye.
Troy Bollinger.
Here. Aye.
Alicia Hammock.
Aye.
Brent Haberkamp.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, the minutes are approved as printed. Public comment, anyone here for general public comment for something not on the agenda? And seeing no hands, I will go to general business. Regional parks comparison, and Kendall, I have to say, I finally got the file open. Thank you so much. I love your format, and please go ahead and tell us all about what you've learned.
I can't take any credit for that. Actually, I'd like to thank Rochelle and John for the work that they did and the research they did in researching 17 parks. Based on the information from the 2018 presentation that Phil gave about parks, PRAC had asked for some regional information comparing our parks to other parks within the region. And without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Rochelle and John.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to provide a regional parks comparison. And just a little bit about how this presentation will be divided up. So I'll present the data and talk about the agencies that we analyzed. And then I'll be handing the conclusion over to John, who will be speaking to some of the specific Oregon City Parks accomplishments, challenges, and the nuances that make Oregon City's park system a unique one. And I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I can hopefully share my screen.
And you have permission to share your screen, or I can share mine.
I think, all right, let's see if this works for everyone.
It is working.
You guys can see it?
I've got it.
Great, okay. Perfect. So let me put my face out of the way. So, as Kendall had mentioned, back in 2018, PRAC had requested an analysis of regional park system and not so much based on the national metrics. And so what we did, John and I went out and spoke to several different agencies and brought this information forward to you. It's for informational purposes only. And at this time, we're not really supplying a recommendation or asking any action by PRAC. This is just a regional comparison to meet the requests back from 2018. So we reached out to 17 different agencies, a population of greater than 20,000 but less than 55,000, asked a series of 8 questions and received 14 responses. We studied 9 data points and we compared agencies based on population, the 2018-19 adopted budget, number of parks per park system, total acreage, expenditures per acre to maintain, FTE per agency, specifically speaking about parks FTEs, seasonal hires per agency, acres to maintain per FTE, and then acres to maintain FTE plus seasonal employees. So our first data point, you can see here that Oregon City is slightly above the average of population of cities that we studied. Adopted budget. So Oregon City is about $1.3 million below the maximum adopted budget, which Lake Oswego holds the maximum adopted budget. Oregon City is about $56,000 above average. And other cities that, and it's important to mention that other cities that maintain a cemetery like Oregon City would be Albany and Redmond. So to compare, Albany's adopted budget is $2.3 million, which is $96,000 larger than Oregon City's. And Redmond's adopted budget is about $1.6 million, which is listed on here, and that's $582,000 less than Oregon City's. Redmond Cemetery, though, is a 19-acre cemetery, whereas Oregon City's is a 50-acre cemetery. Number of parks. So what we wanted to do when we reached out to other park systems is make sure that we were defining parks in a consistent way. And so how we defined a park is an area of land, usually in a largely natural state, for the enjoyment of the public, having facilities for rest and recreation, often owned, set apart, and managed by a city, state, or nation. So according to this definition, Oregon City has 38 parks. That makes Oregon City have 13 parks above average and 17 parks above median. So would be wanting to mention some national standards. So NRPA does an agency review, and they have a certain set of metrics that they also use to analyze some of these data points. So a national standard for NRPA talks about a typical park and recreation agency manages 20 parks comprising of 437 acres. So typically an agency will have 1 park for every 2,281 residents. Using these national standards, Oregon City Parks should have 16 parks, but Oregon City has 30 parks, and that's 1 park for every 982 residents. Total acreage. Oregon City has approximately 300 acres it maintains and operates. Cities similar to this metric would be Wilsonville, Kaiser, and McMinnville. And then again, to point to some national standards, a typical park agency will manage 9.9 acres of parkland for every 1,000 residents. According to this metric, and I'm doing the math, Oregon City manages 8.03 acres of parkland for every 1,000 residents. Okay, expenditures per acre to maintain. So Albany's annual budget expenditure per acre of parkland and non-park sites is $2,499. Woodburn holds the highest expenditure per acre to maintain at $8,753. The reason Woodburn's is so high is their budget's about $1 million and their acreage is relatively low. National standards point to the median operating expenditure per acre at $7,160 per acre. So Oregon City falls right into the realm of median when looking at national standards. So it's important to note that the reason that our expenditure per acre of $7,400 per acre is higher due to some specific nuances and things specifically to parks and recreation in Oregon City. So for example, Oregon City has 300 acres. The majority of those acres are developed, and several of those sites are historic and they need additional care, as well as adding a 50-acre pioneer cemetery, which is very unique. They also are the only agency that we studied that operates and maintains an RV park and a dump site. And then Oregon City it's very unique because it sits on a 3-tiered geological topography, which also creates some additional expenditures to maintain some of those unique properties. And then our expenditures, this is the total adopted budget for 2018-19, and that does include some funds for capital improvement projects. FTE per agency. Oregon City has 7 full-time employees. The average is 8.26. Lake Oswego has 19 full-time employees. Second to this is Tigard with 13 full-time employees. The national standards again point to acres maintained as related to FTEs, and they talk about 250 acres or fewer. The parks and recreation departments typically have 15.9 FTEs. This is close to, we have 300 acres, 7 FTEs. Wilsonville operates and maintains 225 acres with 7 FTEs, and Kaiser operates and maintains 225 acres with 4 FTEs. This national standard is interesting because in the NRPA agency performance review, it combines parks and recreation as a full department and not separate divisions. We're looking specifically today just at park systems. Seasonal hires per agency. So seasonal hires per agency data is highly influenced by the uniqueness of each agency. Forest Grove, for example, does not hire seasonal employees. Albany and Lake Oswego hire approximately 15 seasonal employees. You have Wilsonville, Roseburg, and West Lynn, and they hire approximately the same seasonal employees as we do, which is 5 seasonal employees. So acres per FTE. Oregon City Parks and Rec maintains 42.9 acres per FTE. This falls directly in line with the regional averages and close to the median. During the busy season, when agencies add on seasonal, that number decreases. And so, for example, we operate when we hire on our seasonals, 25 acres per FTE and seasonal employees. And you can see we maintain slightly under the regional average as well as the median. So one of the things I found fascinating when we were calling these different agencies is the uniqueness of how all the different park systems operate in the different sites they maintain. And so some of the uniquenesses that I found with our park system, out of the 15 agencies, there's 3 that operated and maintained a cemetery, 3 out of 15 operated and maintained a golf course, and then 1 out of 15 operated and maintained an RV park. And specifically for the golf course, one of those agencies, Lake Oswego, actually operates and maintains that site. 2 other agencies contract out the operations but maintain that site. And I would venture to guess we were probably one of the few that has a pioneer cemetery, which has our historic sites. Some other information that is more common amenities with these park systems. So 13 out of 15 have spray parks or spray pads. 8 out of 15 have community gardens. 4 out of 15 have an IGA with school district to maintain district-owned properties. 15 out of 15 have dog parks, and 4 out of 15 own and operate a wedding venue, and 13 out of 15 have river access or boat ramps. So in just a moment, I'll be handing it over to John Waverly, who will be talking about insights specific to Oregon City Parks and Recreation. He'll be talking about some of the challenges the parks staff faces, their accomplishments, and we'll end with questions from the group if you have questions. But before I hand it over, I just want to tell John and Jenny and the group too, this has been absolutely a fascinating experience to, I've spent a lot of time talking with John and Jenny and learning how hard that team works. They care so much, and it's interesting the dynamics that the park staff faces on a daily basis. I've heard some really incredibly interesting stories, and I have a whole new respect for that team. So I just want to thank John for his patience with me asking 400 questions and taking his time. So without further ado, I will hand it over to John Waverly.
Hey there. So one of the other factors that we had been discussing was the current homeless situation in Oregon City. We are the county seat of Clackamas County, and I'm not quite sure how many of those other cities are a county seat, which is another unique factor. As far as some of the insight to the challenges that we're dealing with, on a daily basis, we are dealing with the cleanup and disposal of homeless waste, trash, and garbage. Some of the things that I think my staff would tell you is that we care very much about Oregon City's parks, and we want them to be clean, safe, and easily usable by our citizens. And when we come into work every day and have to clean up messes, it's very frustrating, and it weighs heavily on our staff and myself. As far as accomplishments go, we just put in the new restrooms at Chapin, which are at this point in time already requiring repairs due to the vandalism that's been occurring. I talked to my park host there, and he caught some teenage kids basically kicking in the doors. So again, just some of the more challenges that we continue to face. But our accomplishments were the ability of our crews to address all of these concerns amidst all of our other work, the continued development and repairs of the parks, the relationships that we build with our community partners, which is Jarrow TC. We have actually had a solve cleanup this afternoon. The youth sports groups that we work with, and there's just another ongoing multitude of community partners that help us greatly to make sure that the parks get maintained well and in operable condition. So I can't say enough for our volunteers and everything that they do for us. So beyond that, hopefully you guys find this information.
Really don't.
What's that? Hello?
Keep going, John.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, hopefully you guys find this this information valuable. And again, it is at this point in time just information, but we wanted to make sure that you guys were able to see it and it's available for you all. So, are there questions?
Okay, and this is Karen stepping back in. We have, I'm assuming, 2 community comments. Lisa, are you representing Park Place?
I am, but as a citizen.
Okay, and given Lisa's position with Park Place and Dee Dee's efforts on this, the normal time limit is 3 minutes. I would suggest that Lisa and Dee Dee each get 5 minutes. I'll watch my clock, Dee Dee. But is there any opposition? Okay, I will go to Lisa first for comments.
All right, thank you, Chair Maury. First of all, I'm very late and I'd like to take a moment with heartfelt gratitude to John Waverly and his staff. I'm way overdue in conveying my thank you. And Park Place Park has really been looking great. The playground is fantastic. We haven't had a ribbon cutting because of COVID. We just discussed this the other night. The steering committee is thrilled about how good things are looking. And please convey my thanks to the hosts as well. Everything is just beautiful there. So thank you, John, and to your staff. Okay, starting off, good evening, PRAC members. My name is Lisa Novak. I am a citizen of Park Place neighborhood, and I'd like to address the topic of heritage trees at Park Place Park. Unfortunately, this topic has been kind of bounced around for some time now, and we have a pretty unique setting in that we're also terraced. Maybe John, you can help me out. We do have 3 layers to our park, 4 plots, and in between 2 of the plots is a row of Atlas cedars, and they're quite unique. And I'd like to be part of the designation. And tonight, I respectfully ask that PRAC supports the designation of the entire white oak stand, the Atlas cedars, and most important, the healthy and beautiful white oak at the center of the park. And I have to put a caveat in there, and I'm speaking specifically about healthy trees. Please recall that the Park Place neighborhood has only 1 park. There is no further land available to develop a new park within our neighborhood, and we have dozens, if not hundreds, of new homes either planned or currently under construction. The park is very important to the neighborhood, and if the stand of a half dozen or so trees could please be preserved and honored with a heritage tree designation, we would greatly appreciate it. Additionally, regarding the stand that is on the eastern side of the park, there is the opportunity to expand the park and make it just a little bit bigger by clearing some underbrush, invasive plants, and some other weeds and whatnot. Wouldn't it be cool if a grant could be obtained by one of the local volunteer organizations to make this a natural area with a short trail? Something similar maybe over at Alliance Charter Academy, if you could picture that, or on a very small scale of Atkinson Park. We could have something really cool that's quite doable and feasible by one of the local organizations, whether that's Oregon City Parks Foundation or a similar organization. I think it's quite within our reach. Another thing to keep in mind is that Dee Dee has worked on this particular project for Park Place for at least a year and has dedicated much time and effort to our neighborhood, and I'd like to extend my thanks to her. Additionally, the Neighborhood Association issued a letter of support, a formal letter of support to these trees to the city of Oregon City in December of 2019. So this is how long it's been lingering. And one final question I have, I don't know if anyone can answer it, but if other stands or groves in Oregon City parks are allowed the heritage tree designation, why not Park Place? So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. And I have to admit, okay, I want to get back to the debates. I jumped too fast and didn't take the comments on Rochelle's presentation, and I apologize. Kendall, you're still the spark behind everything, but thank you, Rochelle and Jonathan, for all the work you did on your presentation. And I now need people to raise their hand if they have a question for Kendall, Rochelle, or Jonathan on the comparative statistics. All right, Sean.
Just a comment. Obviously, it's outstanding work. And the last time I saw this presented, it was a joint PRAC City Commission meeting. And so I would encourage you, Rochelle, to get this on a work session with the City Commission, as I know they're very eager to see the same data. Well done.
Okay, Brent.
I just wanted to echo off of what Sean just said. Rochelle and John, that was a great presentation. Very interesting, to say the least. I love data and points like that in comparison, so I thought it was really great. My question is there a place where this presentation is kept where we could download it and look at it and develop further questions?
Brent, the answer is if you go to orcity.org and the link for tonight's meeting, if you
Okay,
look at the packet, the entire packet is available to download.
thank you.
And Ms. Wiseman. Kathy.
Sorry, I'm a little slow. I'm older. Calm down. I just wanted to thank Rochelle and John and Denise and Kendall. These types of things take a lot of work and a lot of thought, and it's well presented, but I want people to know that when we talk about a unique park system, there are some really significant issues, and Oregon City is unique, and that's what makes it special. And we have a very high standard for ourselves and try and have for the parks. And the homeless issue is, I've talked a lot about this, it's a humanitarian crisis for us. And it's not a parks crisis, it's an everybody crisis. But we deal with a lot of not only the cleanup, but the human part of the homelessness in our parks. We deal with a lot of crumbling infrastructure that is not a parks issue, but it's a community issue. So I think I would encourage people to spend some more time talking to particularly John and Denise and Kendall about what do we really mean, and the extensive information we have about the unique properties of Oregon City and its Parks Department. But I really wanted to thank them. This is a lot of work, and it's a really good jumping off point for us.
Okay, and I'm going to add a closing comment. This is information that was requested twice from work sessions with the City Commission. I'm comfortable leaving it to Kendall and staff to schedule a new work session with the new information. I also want to clarify, yes, Rochelle, we have a historic cemetery, but we have an active cemetery that is still burying multiple people per month, which takes a large amount of staff time, which is different from some of our comparisons. But yes, we're historic, which is my thing, but we're still actively an active cemetery. And Alicia, I see your hand. Alicia?
Hi, quick question.
Thank you, dear.
Sorry about that. Question is, and great presentation. I love that information and data. So John, in terms of, because I know there's the park hosts and lots of volunteers, I think it would be fascinating before you went in front of like the Joint Commission to quantify out the number of FTE like equivalent of the volunteer hours working in the parks, because I'm guessing that would be pretty high with the park hosts and the other volunteer groups. And not all parks systems in our area have that, you know, level of volunteerism in their parks.
Yeah, I'd just be really concerned about how you know, I mean, we ask in general for, you know, a certain amount of hours on a daily basis. That's not to say, I mean, a lot of the time sites will go without a park host for a while. A lot of times park hosts won't always necessarily be filling those hours. Obviously during our summer months, it would peak. It'd be very, very difficult data to gather. And this is very time consuming. I hope that everyone does You know, I appreciate Rochelle giving me credit, and yes, I probably did answer 400 questions, but she worked her tail off to get this. And we could possibly get volunteer hours. I would have to check on that.
Okay, Alicia, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so my question to Kendall, do we actually need to vote to accept this? Or just note in the minutes that this needs to now be presented to the city commission with PrAC in a joint work session?
We can just note in the minutes that it needs to be presented in a joint work session with PrAC and the city commission.
Okay, is there any disagreement with that?
Karen, I have a question, and I'm not sure how to raise my hand.
Who's I?
This is Troy. I have a question, and I'm not sure how to raise my hand.
Okay. Troy, yes, go ahead.
Question for Rochelle. On the employee, in any of your calculations, when you were using employees, whether it be the average or the actual numbers or anything, was that including all employees at the cemetery, meaning office staff, whether they're on the grounds or in the, in the office or anything? Was that everybody included?
Yeah, and that might be a better response for John, but yes, 7 FTEs was total parks full-time staff.
So that wasn't just what we might, and pardon if I'm using the wrong terms, but what I might consider grounds maintenance people that are out with the shovels getting dirty, but that's also all FTE in the office, out of the office, everybody, right?
John, do you want to?
No, that did not include our office staff or,
okay.
Like that does not include Kendall, who actually did park route a few weeks ago with us. So no, that did not include our office staff or anybody else.
Okay. And then I guess then the follow-up question to that is, and you may not know this because I don't know how many questions you asked of the other departments that you called, those those other uniques when you said like the golf courses and the cemeteries and some of those other ones that you mentioned of the other departments, when you looked at their FTE numbers, did those numbers include their office staff, or do you know that?
I don't know that answer. When we contacted the other agencies, we sent out 8 questions that specified how many FTEs does your parks system have? And then, and so whether that included administrative staff, I don't know the answer to that. But yeah, we did receive.
As a guess, my instinct tells me no, that probably doesn't include theirs. Like I know, and Rochelle, you might like special events, some of those other categories that didn't include like anybody from rec. Is that correct, Rochelle? Special events.
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
This is John.
Thank you, Jonathan.
No, and for several of these departments, we actually received the organizational charts, and then I took the information straight off of that information. So.
Okay, and I'm going to chime in because I have sat up at the cemetery office way too many hours. We have 2 FTEs, and I actually hope they're both FTEs, who answer every park call. That's reservations for shelters, you name it. They answer park calls, but they are cited at the cemetery, and they do have to work with families and arrange funerals, but they are the backbone of the parks department.
Well, I couldn't say that any better. They are absolutely the grease that keeps our wheels a turning, is how I always refer to it. But yes, oftentimes, it's very labor intensive, time wise to process a placement. And so there's a lot that goes into that, into headstones. One thing we had calculated out, and we're not, again, this is informational only. We just are trying to kind of tell our story here, but we do on average about 100 placements a year.
Okay, so Kendall, as we move forward, because both deferred maintenance and staffing issues need to go back to a work session. It sounds like PrAC is saying move ahead, and congratulations to staff for an excellent report. Any disagreement? Hearing none, we go back to Park Place, I'm sorry. Heritage Stand tree nominations for Park Place Park. And we are on citizen comment still. So Dee Dee, you have 5 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me, right?
I can hear you, dear.
Okay, sometimes I'm not quite sure. Okay. I'm John, I'm so glad you're here. And that was a fantastic report. Oregon City's doing pretty darn good with their average, and that's pleasing. We can, and because we're trying to be as good stewards and citizens of trees. But I'm really glad you're here, John, because I really wanted to extend the history of what we've been doing up at Park Place Park in regards to Heritage Tree nominations. Just because I've been involved with the Heritage Tree nominations back from the NRC and working with changing some of the code, and also following our city's tree code and their amendments. But in the meantime, we had a timeline that we were going to observe one of those particular trees. You might remember it. I have it labeled as O2A. It's the oak tree that's down by the restrooms. We were going to observe that for 18 months. Now it's been just about a little over 2.5 years. And it doesn't look any worse in decline, but it is truly in decline. The reason we wanted to do this whole nomination in its entirety, because when we first noticed the very first oak tree up there that caught my eye, had a beautiful hole in it, looked like 2 of them joined together. And so I just kind of ran a close average, and it was right around 350 years old. So that uniqueness made me start looking around the park. I've had Byron Boyce, and John might remember when we first met up there in 2018, we had Nicole Acre from the Clackamas County Soil and Water Conservation. She's the white oak specialist. Jerry Hearn was up there. He's walked that area 2 and 3 times now with Park Place Park Representative Lisa, also Oregon City Parks Foundation, board members, Byron Boyce, Jerry Herman is looking at it because we would like to do habitat restoration, working with a demonstration garden, putting in native habitat underneath those white oak stands that go up that hillside. That's what's significant about that grouping. There's 14 beautiful trees up in there, some of them very, very unique, some growing complete 2 different trees that made one trunk. It's a significant stand and not a real difficult area to help clean up the invasive weeds, and it can be a beautiful demonstration garden. We're sourcing out camas and native growth underneath there. You also might remember when we were talking with Nicole, John, we had spoken about the fir trees, the 2 fir that are in the mowing area, the groomed area, along with the 4 oak. But the ones that go up the side, there's fir up in there. We've chosen to leave those out of the nomination because between the 2 trees, the oak habitat is more rare, more beneficial, and we could generate a good habitat and a jogging trail or a hiking trail up and around that whole area. it's also kind of a wet, damp area. So this could alleviate a lot of that wetness that comes and gathers at the top of that first level up in there. So this has been a real big effort with multiple parties. And I hope you consider Oregon City Parks Foundation a partner, because we log in hundreds of hours and I report them to your office at the end of every year. From all events that we do, from ivy cleanup to the xeriscape gardens that we're doing, the weeding in the parks, to then our bottle collecting for grant dollars to match, which will go back into Park Place Park again, and do all of our parks in our city. But this is a unique stand. I think we can really shine it nicely. All of the trees are healthy, except for the one, and we have provided the staff back in June. In fact, I think I got it to on July 8th because I didn't want to send it
1 minute,
before.
Dee Dee.
Okay, I didn't want to send it before July, but you do have an arborist report, which is something the city would require before destroying a tree. You're not putting any more protection on those trees that they already have. But what you're doing is enabling people to apply for grants under the name of heritage. It gives us a bigger bite, and when we're doing something, we're getting in and cleaning up an area and shining the significance of our oak stands, especially up in that neighborhood. Jerry Herman will be sending in a letter in regards to that. He's walked up in there, attested the health of the trees. We have a lot of educated people, Nancy, and both Doug supported this stand also from the NRC. So if there's any questions you have about any of the trees, I did make a statement when we submitted this back in December at the same time we
Okay,
sent
Dee
in
Dee.
Park Place.
Dee
There is a
Dee.
closing statement in regards to everything I said. Thank you.
Thank you, dear. And I'm also going to add, this is Karen. I had a long phone conversation with Jerry Herman tonight. Jerry has vision issues, and one of his assistants forwarded his written statement to the wrong place, and it wasn't received. From my conversation with Jerry, he has talked to Dee Dee and Jonathan. He is in agreement with Jonathan that the full stand perhaps doesn't require designation, but definitely agrees with Dee Dee on understory issues and individual trees. So reporting for unofficially for Jerry. I see Pete and Jonathan as the staff report on this. Who goes first?
So can I chime in before they start, Karen?
Kendall, would you please?
So at the last meeting, after Pete presented some of the trees that we discussed, we had some concerns about. Prac had asked to get some insight from John to clarify some of the issues, some of the things that he saw on these trees that could be potential issues moving forward. So John has prepared a slideshow to go through some of the trees to highlight some of those issues.
Okay, Jonathan, can we get your slideshow up? Or not? Good job. It worked.
Yay, me.
Yay, Jonathan.
Okay, so I was asked by the planning department to go up and take a look at the trees and just do an overall assessment. Nothing, I am not a certified arborist. I do have a horticulture degree, and I have not played a doctor on television. This is poison oak, which was at the base of one of the fir trees once I got up there to take a look at and do my general assessment. So this was one of the things that I just I have a bit of a fear or phobia of poison oak. I get it very badly. So just this was one of the things that I wanted folks to know about. Just some of the site's concerns and conditions. So this is the road section. So as you can see, the road pretty much goes right up to the tree root system. Well, the root system would be out in the road. With travel over this road, our concerns are compaction. And again, these are just general statements that we're making. This is nothing, you know, they're just our observations. So, you know, take it for what it is. But yes, this is one of the Atlas cedars, and you can see the proximity to the road. Now, that road that goes through there is not per se a main travel road, but it is accessed, and it is right of way for South Fork Water actually accesses through this road as well. So again, this is one of the oak trees that we're looking at. The proximity. So I didn't do as good of a job as I could have. Forgive me, I'm not a photographer. But the drip line on this oak would roughly be out to about where this gravel is. And the South Fork water line replacement actually had a lot of equipment in this area. So again, just something about the site, and something that we wanted to point out. This is that same tree. As you can see, it is two trunks that have managed to push themselves together. This would actually be weakly attached. So when I say that, trees don't just naturally mend themselves together. So this would be weakly attached in that middle section, meaning that it could just eventually split apart. But a very, very unique oak tree, has a whole lot of character for sure. Here's that wonderful new playground that we got put in up there at Park Place. As you can see, just right above the roof, that would be one of the Atlas branches that are hanging down fairly close to the top of the playground. So obviously during those big windstorms and events, we actually had a limb come down off of these trees. Again, this is just an observation, things that we see while we're out in the parks. So wanted to show you guys that. This is one of the Atlas cedars. They are giant. They do have a extremely large caliper. There's no question to that. But what we're showing here is the inclusion. So again, this is multiple trunks that have grown and gotten to such big size that they start growing together in that sense. But that area that kind of looks like that crack in between, that's just an area, a gap where it would be included. So those trees are weakly attached at that junction. So again, just an observation that we made. Let's see here. Got just a few more. Some of the local kids felt like that they would be artists and decided to paint this one, unfortunately. So again, just an observation that we made while we were on site. You can see there's actually some old pruning cuts that have healed nicely on this tree. So that's good, good healing wood. So nice to see that. Not so nice to see the vandalism and graffiti. And then this was just a shot stepping back. So you can see the playground, the new playground off to the left. this shows you the pathway that cuts across there, and then that gravel road that goes underneath the row of Atlas cedars. So yeah, those are just trying to, I don't know how many of you from PRAC have gotten a chance to get up there and maybe take a look at these trees yourself, but we just wanted to give you guys a little bit of perspective of everything that we see. And then I also gave information to Pete, and Pete will be following up with the rest of the information and presentation.
Hi there.
That was, I gave a thank you, Jonathan, and yes, Pete, please go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Jonathan. Great presentation. Thanks, Dee Dee and Lisa. I'm just going to briefly talk about the criteria for heritage trees again, so everyone understands the basis for the nomination. I'm going to share my screen. And wherever it is. Okay. Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So the purpose of the Heritage Tree Program is to recognize, foster appreciation, and provide for voluntary protection of certain trees because of their age, species, natural resource value, ecological or horticultural value, or historical association, and they're of special importance to the city, and they may grow on private or public property. The definition of a heritage stand means a group of 2 or more trees that have been designated as having importance subject to this code. The heritage criteria, at least one of these criteria must be met. Number 1 is the tree or stand is associated with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad pattern of Oregon City's history. Number 2, the tree or stand of trees is associated with the life of a person or group of historic significance to Oregon City. Number 3, the tree or stand represents a significant and distinguishable presence. Or 4, the tree or stand of trees has age, size, or species significance, which contributes to Oregon City's heritage status. Then there are site and condition criteria which must be satisfied. They are that the species of tree is not listed as an invasive tree or plant on any regionally accepted plant list, and that 2, if the proposed heritage tree or stand is located on private property or on public property owned by a public agency other than the city, that the property owner or the stand of trees on public has the consent of that owner. So the Natural Resources Committee wanted to emphasize that their original recommendation for designation was based on those criteria, and it still continues to be. So that's all I have to add to the discussion, and I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has. Thank you.
Okay, and before any questions, I have a Kendall question. I believe from our prior discussions, this issue has come down to designating every tree at Park Place Park as a heritage tree, or working under the new tree removal policy for city property. Am I off base, Jonathan, Pete, or Kendall?
I can speak to that if you like.
Pete?
There's a draft policy under discussion at the moment, has not been back to the city commission for adoption yet. And what it is a policy whereby there's additional notification requirements and trees of a certain size, if there is a application for removal, would be subject to public notice of 14 days. And also there's additional mitigation requirements, including larger caliper trees, an analysis of alternatives to removal as part of that process, and then also an analysis of whether the wood itself can be reused in a certain way. So that's just a very broad brush overview of what that policy would do, in addition to the existing tree removal permits, which apply to non-residential property in Oregon City.
Okay, Jonathan? Any additions?
The one thing I'd like to say is that
Oh, I was going to you next.
the one thing I'd like to say is the reason for bringing this back to PRAC is, and before I go into that, obviously there's been some delays in the process due to COVID and to the fires, and I apologize to Dee Dee for those delays. But once we did have the opportunity to review these trees and the health of some of these trees, locations, the goal for us was come back to make sure that PRAC was aware of some of those issues and to give guidance on how you would like for us to move forward. Some of the trees would be fine, but some of the trees that we identified, we have some concerns about. So the goal was to get some level of direction in regards to those trees that we identified. We had concerns.
Okay, and back to Karen. My impression is we're looking at, do we go for the new citywide policy on trees on public property? Or do we set aside all of the Park Place trees as a heritage grove? Am I out to lunch? Seeing no hands or comments. Brent.
So I have a question in regards to the heritage tree designation. One of the problems that I see up in Park Place Park is where those trees, C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, those are the Atlas cedars, I believe, that we're always talking about. One of the problems that I see when I walk up there is that the roots of those trees have decimated the walkway or the pathway. I don't even think it's ADA compliant. It needs to be repaired. It is in desperate need of some maintenance work. My question is if we give those Atlas cedars the designation of heritage tree, what type of impact would that have to any type of maintenance to the pathway under there? Would there be any, would it cause more, like we would have to have a vote, or I don't know. That's why I'm posing the question.
Okay, staff.
I can answer what would happen after the city commission decision. I've got another slide which I can share about that. So designation is complete upon the city commission's approval of the nomination and anything that they determine is necessary to assure the protection. And that hasn't been discussed yet. And as far as protection goes, application to remove a heritage tree must show that the burden imposed on the city by the continued presence of the tree outweighs the public benefit provided by the tree. And the following tree impacts are considered reasonable burdens on the city. That includes view obstruction, routine pruning, leaf raking, and other maintenance, and also infrastructure impacts or tree hazards that can be mitigated. Obviously, there are levels to the amount that the Parks Department can spend on mitigating tree hazards and that sort of thing. So this kind of subjective decision-making would have to be something that we discuss with the city commission at the time they make the final decision.
Thank you.
Okay.
Because I am all for a heritage designation for the trees, but for me, the more important consideration is that the parks are for use for all, and the pathways are in dire need of maintenance up there.
Yeah.
Jonathan?
Yeah, no, I would agree with Brent's statement. So when we were doing the playground replacement, we actually had roots clear out into the playground. And so those roots were actually outside of the drip zone. So we felt comfortable, you know, typically the rule of thumb is 30% of root zone that you want to maintain or not remove. Anything more than that, that's just a generalization. But yes, you are correct. That is a picture actually that I took and did not include in my slides there. But there are at least 2, if not 3, larger upheavals of the walking path right in that area due to the roots from that. Now, can I tell you, is that 30%? I can't tell you that off the cuff, but and then if we were to remove that section of root, would it possibly endanger the life of that tree? There is always a possibility with that anytime you're cutting into a root, but those trees are fairly substantial in size. So, you know, you just never know what you're getting into with that. And it could require arborist reports, which are expensive. You know, so you just never know where it's going to go. But very good point, Brent. I agree with you.
Okay, Derek.
My question is there a way to develop this park and also cohabitate with trees that have been there 300, 400, or 500 years? Can we move the path, or do we just have to, you know, put it where it goes?
Well,
These things have been there for a long time. I think,
yeah,
you know, is the way I'm going, or what I'm thinking about.
Exactly.
And second of all, does the designation of a heritage tree affect the city of Oregon City financially in some burden at some point? Thank you.
Yeah, so to answer your question as far as the walking trail there, we as a staff have had conversations about things like if we were to remove the asphalt, you know, what would that mean? Looking at options like crushed granite instead of doing asphalt over that area. But the tree's going to continue to grow, therefore the roots will continue to grow. You know, I mean, the impacts are currently happening, and quite frankly, I can't tell you what is going to continue to happen moving forward. We can always look at options. I mean, we could get rid of that pathway that cuts through there and just consider that no longer a pathway is an option. So, you know, I mean, I think anything would be on the table for sure. So, and then what was your second question? The financial impacts?
Yeah, I was just saying, you know, with your pictures and some of the examples, which are great, but nation of the heritage tree thing create a financial impact for the city in the future, or possibly
there always is that
probably off topic of what we were talking about.
Okay, did we get an answer to that?
Sorry, I said yes, there always is that possibility. There's no question.
Okay, Kendall.
Yes.
Do we need to take a vote tonight or postpone pending commission approval of the new policies on trees on public lands? Sorry.
Pete, do you have any idea when that's going to come before the city commission?
I really can't answer. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Very soon, I would say within a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
can't answer exactly though.
All right. And since we have a messed up November and December, this may be a January issue.
Potentially.
Does anyone disagree with postponing the difference between supporting the designation of everything at Park Place as a heritage tree versus the adoption of the new city tree ordinances?
Karen, this is Brent. I have to step in with your verbiage. It's not every tree in Park Place. It's just the ones designated on the picture that we're looking at, correct?
Jonathan, clarify. Or
Yes,
Pete.
that would be a correct statement. It is not every tree in Park Place. It was only the ones that are shown as designated in the picture.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So clarifying my statement that every tree designated on the presentation tonight would be protected. Not sure where we come up with the motion on this. I think it just needs to be recorded in the minutes. Any disagreement? Seeing no other hands, note that this has been recorded within the minutes. All right, now we have the Oregon City Film Trail locations update from Matthew. Matthew.
Hi, Karen. Sorry, I'm figuring out how to get out of full screen there. If you allow me to share my screen, I can share a.
You should be able to share, Matthew.
Thank you, Kendall. Thanks a lot, folks. I'm working from home tonight. I'm sick, so I will spare you the video screen from everybody. But I just wanted to give folks a quick update here about our preferred locations for the Oregon City Film Trail site. We have located 3 sites along the promenade. 2 of them are roughly between 2nd and 3rd Street, as you can see on the screen. And the 3rd is a little past 3rd Street. All within park property, where we're hoping to place those signs. We have, as recommended by PRAC at the last time I met with you all, we have been in touch with the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. We'll be updating them on our plans at their November meeting. And the reason we have these 3 options is, as some of you may recall, we are unsure of the, I guess, subgrass substrate, I guess is a better term, that will allow us to dig a short, shallow post hole. So we're just giving ourselves some options there in case we run into basalt, an inch or 2 below the grass in the topsoil. But I just wanted to give folks an update about that, hoping that it's moving forward, but also still provide some opportunity for input and insight from all of you. So we'll stop there and kind of hand it back over to Karen there for insight
Matthew,
from Brad. Yes.
explanation. Who's property is that on?
That is on city property.
So even though I'm seeing structures on something, it's 4th and Promenade?
No, so it'll be, so if you see kind of the 1, 2, and 3 there.
I
on
keep
the-
trying to scan.
Yeah, overlay there. But that's kind of where the signs will go, more or less, a couple feet off of the promenade walkway.
At 4th?
No, between second, I believe it's between 2nd and 3rd off of High Street, just roughly, but obviously then on the promenade side.
Okay, near the old water tank. I'm too
Potentially.
familiar with this area, unfortunately. But okay, go ahead, please, dear, give your presentation.
Oh, that was just it. That was the update about where the preferred sites, and just wanted to hear from PrAC about any input or concerns about those sites. But as we talked about at our last time I came before you, I believe the recommendation was in favor of placing the signage. Wanted us to do some due diligence, reach out to the neighborhood association, but also come back with some preferred locations after we've engaged park staff, which we have.
Okay, because I'm having trouble figuring out exactly where you show it's going to on your graphic.
So this would be on the promenade, and I used 2nd Street and 3rd Street kind of as reference points. But so if you imagine where roughly, if you're on the promenade looking over to the Blue Heron site where 99 goes into the tunnel, that's about where this is as well.
Okay, and that is city-owned property on the west side or east side of the actual promenade?
It's city-owned property on the east side.
Okay. Questions? People? I see no questions. And I know exactly where you're talking about. I think that is the perfect location.
That's great to hear. We're excited, and we're excited to, obviously invite all the members of PrAC, as well as staff and other involved parties when we have the sign ready to go, as far as a sign ribbon cutting unveiling as well. So please be on the lookout for that as well.
Karen, this is Troy.
Yes, raise your hand, Troy.
As I stated before, I'm not sure how to raise my hand on this.
Okay, Troy.
I'm confused, so I'm not sure what question to ask. The last time we had a presentation, we had different pictures, and if I remember right, and I could be wrong here, for me anyway, it's a little easier to understand the location. I do remember we talked about flagpole, no flagpole. We had questions about the flagpole. And so although I'm not in disagreement with these locations, I am not comfortable stating that I'm in agreement with them, because although I see from an aerial view where they're at, I'm not completely aware of what's nearby. There's some benches, lookouts. I'm just not exactly sure where these are landing.
Yeah, so I hear that concern, and we took that concern very seriously initially when we were here before, regarding flagpoles and other existing signs. These 3 options are all further south from some of those photos that we showed you. You need to be Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson to hit the flagpole with a football from where that number 1 is. So yeah, so if you imagine there is, I guess if you're and my apologies for not having I would say a street level view here, but there is a series of kind of basalt outcroppings and a bench further down, obviously from that flagpole. That's where those options 1 and 2 are. So, like I said, about 100 yards south of those.
100 yards south is the flagpole, you say?
No, these options are about 100 yards south from the flagpole.
Okay, that makes more sense. So then let's say about how much farther south is the VFW?
I would say about equal distance south from. You could say these options are about smack dab in the middle from where the flagpole and the VFW are.
Okay, and then my question is benches. There's a couple of benches in there. Can you tell me where the benches would be in relationship to say 1 and 2?
Yeah, so the bench, if you squint very hard, if I were to zoom in here, which I won't do that kind of dizzy induce that nausea-inducing action, but there is a bench almost adjacent or right to the north of option number 1. We felt that would be a great opportunity for folks to not only take in the information on the sign, take in the view, but then be able to sit on the bench as well.
So you say just north of number 1. So I'm looking at 2 bushes or 2 trees at number 1. Is that kind of where the bench is, right by those 2 trees?
Yep. Yeah. Here I'll.
Okay. And then
zoom in like at that bush. You can actually make out the bench a little bit there.
Okay. And then number 2, is there any other kind of I guess I'd call it a landmark for lack of a better term, but any other sort of significance for number 2 or number 3 other than a bench? There's not a lookout right there, I don't think.
There is a slight lookout on the other side of the promenade or the pathway itself from number 2.
Is there is that where that little cutout is there?
Yeah. Yep. You're
the
correct
bigger
there.
one is farther south, I believe.
Right. Yeah, there is. And then I'm moving the screen over. Sorry for folks there. Number 3, there is not a bench or a lookout. It just we kind of felt it was the third most kind of pleasant site, as well as an unobstructed view down to where some of the filming has occurred and under a tree.
And then where is number 3 again in relation to 1 and 2?
About 25 yards, 30 yards north on the promenade.
Okay. And okay, so are you asking then? So I guess, are you asking our opinion as to which is the best option, or you haven't decided that?
We believe number 1, these are kind of ranked as our preferred options. We're just letting you know we are, as I said, we are unsure of the substrate depth there for all of these. We haven't, I didn't want to go out and dig holes in the promenade, put it that way. But this is kind of where we will attempt to.
Okay, any other questions for Matthew on 1, 2, and 3? Is anyone comfortable making a motion that it go at 1? I'm not seeing any hands.
I think I need to take a walk down there.
Andy. Andy?
I motion to approve what Matthew suggested. I like it.
Okay, second. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Derek Kugel.
Thank you, Derek. All right. Kendall, please take roll for a vote.
All right. Doug Neely. Jeff Sargent.
Aye.
Andy Crump.
Aye.
Karen Morey.
Yeah, aye.
Derek Kugel.
Aye.
John Datchler.
Aye.
Troy Bollinger.
Abstain.
Alicia Hammock.
Aye.
Brent Haberkamp.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. Matthew, go with it Yeah, depending on what you can sink on that side of the promenade.
Will do. And
Metro.
thank you all so much for the time and the insight as well. Greatly appreciate it.
And thank you, Matthew, for your work on this. All right, we are down to member reports. Anybody have anything to report? I need fresh hands. I see Andy and Kathy that haven't taken their hands down. All right, I see no hands. Staff report. Kendall.
All right. Some exciting news. We should receive sealed proposals for Filbert Run Park. They are due on October 23rd by 4 p.m. So we can start the process of construction on Filbert Run Park. We did have a visit this week from Tyrone S. Wood's mom to the site at TSW. So to visit the memorial. We're very excited about the progress that we're making at TSW. Right now, we're working on some change orders that we're getting ready to present to the City Commission for approval. But otherwise, things are going well there. At DC Lotterette, unfortunately, we've had some issues with COVID, and we're experiencing some delays there at that particular site, but we hope to get back up and running there. Otherwise, just want to have some conversation about the applicants for the vacant positions. I did have a conversation with Katie this week. She is extending the deadline for applicants for the vacant positions on PRAC. We are will tentatively be scheduled for December 3rd for our work session to review the applicants and to go through that process. But I will make sure to have some additional updates in the month of November. Otherwise, November, due to Thanksgiving, we are not scheduled to meet for PRAC. And we will continue to meet on December 3rd. And that is it for me. Rochelle, any update from you?
Yeah, I guess just real quick, letting the group know that the reopening of the pool is going smoothly, and we've got lap lanes and water exercise spots are full, and we'll be starting swim lessons in November, and those are also actually full. So we'll be doing COVID safe swim lessons. And then on October 31st, the Friends group is for their Friends of the Ermitinger House. They're offering an event. It's called Tales and Tours. And it'll be an outdoor walking tour with Rocky, and then an indoor tour with William Becker, and Dave McCluskey will be reading Poe, Edgar Allan Poe poetry. And so that event is a registration ticket purchase. And we're excited to be able to offer something at the Ermitinger House again. So that is what I have.
All right, Kathy.
Update for the Pioneer Center. Well, while it has been nice outside, we've had some activities. We've had a walking club that's continued through the summer, and as the weather starts to turn, we'll probably see them end that. We've also had a very large AA group meeting in the parking lots, and as the weather turns, I'm sure they will have to go online to Zoom meetings, which I'm really good at usually. I'm kidding, I'm terrible at them. We've also had a grief support group that have met outside. Today we had a Medicare supplement presentation outside. So as those outside activities become soggy due to the weather, I'm sure they'll go to Zoom. We've had some success with some virtual yoga. But I have to tell you, the folks in Oregon City are very social. And they just all want to run back in that building and hug each other and tell each other what's been going on. But they are incredibly high risk. So we're just going to wait until we're safe and there's a good vaccine. And I will be first in line. We are continuing with a high number of Meals on Wheels. And in addition to delivering meals and personal products, my staff is taking a great deal of time doing reassurance calls and spending time with people individually on the phone because the isolation has been pretty significant for this population. It's really hard on them. So that's been a really terrific bonus for our community, and our staff has really gotten to know our clients really well. We will be having one of our vehicles on the road on Tuesday with clients. So we'll have a bus on the road taking clients shopping and to appointments. We'll see how it goes. Everything with COVID with this population is we have to really do it carefully and slowly. We have masks and hand sanitizer and cleaning the bus in between rides. So we're trying to be very, very careful and mindful, not only with my staff, but with the clients we serve. So it just takes a lot of time. The city this year, we're sort of preparing, we get a large grant with federal funds to provide some of these services. So we're not sure yet, but we may have an audit, which will take a significant amount of time. So we're preparing for that. So it's just business, we're just doing our business until we can get out of this very interesting time. So I appreciate my team and I appreciate you folks on PRAC and folks like Dee Dee in our community. We are going to get through this. I'm pretty sure. I'm hoping.
Thank you, Kathy. Any other staff?
John?
Our staff have been working very hard. Normally, we use the prison crew to weed whack every single headstone at Mountain View Cemetery. So our staff have been going through and we try to do one row every day. And I'm proud to say that we have gotten through the main body of the cemetery in preparation for Veterans Day. So Veterans Day will be coming up next month. We're working with the Boy Scouts to try to see what their capacity will be for putting out flags for on the veterans headstones. Beyond that, right now our staff is diligently working to knock out some of our project work before the weather turns. So I'm sure as everyone noticed this morning, it was quite chilly and we have freezing temperatures heading our direction. So we are trying to get all of our projects done in anticipation of leaf season to come soon. So very, very, yes, thumbs up. Very, very busy. We also helped out with the library in installing the sign, and there is going to be an unveiling for that. I don't know the date yet. I think more information would come from the library on that, but we helped out the library staff with their sign installation. So we are keeping plenty busy.
Okay, thank you to Jonathan. Greg and I went before HRB on Zoom to get approval of the installation of the history of the library park and library plaque that was lost somewhere in storage. It's in memory of Carl Clapp, who was a longtime member of the Friends of the Library. And thank you so much for the cooperation between the library and the Parks Department to cite and place that plaque, and we'll have more information about the dedication of it. All right. Kendall, questions on future agenda items? You did a beautiful job of sending us out photos of Tyrone S. Woods Memorial Park. That is on the agenda in December for an update. And reminder to all members, although the city is showing a November 19th PrAC meeting, that is not a normal meeting for us. We normally don't meet in November, we meet in early December. We start early with interviews for applicants for vacant positions, followed by a normal meeting. So keep tuned to that. The other question is, we will need some report from the dog park committee. Let Kendall know, let me know. And otherwise, I think we're up to date. Anybody have anything else to say?
This is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
On the dog park, I just wanted to comment that Lisa and Bill did decide to join the committee with us. So they'll be a part and parcel of the dog park committee. I just need to get with Kendall at some point and figure out when's a good time to meet and how to go about doing that and getting that set up.
Thank you for following up on that, Jeff. Any other comments? Questions? Seeing no hands, folks, we are done. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
You have a good night.